So the only thing that I have to say right now is like, fuck you, Brandon. How fucking dare you? Like, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to the channel. This is my first video of the year, and it's one about pain because I finished reading The Final Empire exactly 20 minutes after midnight on the 1st of January, and I've taken like a day and so to process because god damn it, like that was a lot. That was too much actually, and I have a lot of things to say about this book, so we're gonna go with that. Like, I'm gonna divide this video in a couple of things that I want to say. So I think that at first I'm going to talk about the things that don't freaking make me want to go to a psychologist, that I don't need to, that I'm actually amazed to, which are the world building and the magic system. I'm gonna be really brief about that. Also, this is not gonna be a review in which I state like the first part is non-spoiler. This is going to be completely like spoiler review because this freaking book has been around for like more than a decade, I think, and everybody knows what this book is about. And if you clicked on this video, you probably read it. And if you haven't read it, what are you doing in this video? Like, you should read the book first. I'm not gonna be talking non-spoiler review because the only thing I have to say about this book is like, it's fucking genius, you should read it. That's my review without spoilers. The magic is amazing, the world building is amazing, you're gonna fall in love with the characters and it's gonna hurt, and that's it. That's everything you need to know. So now we're gonna go with the magic system because it's hella cool. Okay, so The Final Empire. The Final Empire is the third book I read from Brandon Sanderson, and if there is one thing that I have to say about this man is that I freaking love his magic systems. He's amazing. I'm in love with the Elantrian magic system because honestly, that's just it's so beautiful and I love it. And Elantris is like, it's not my first story from him because I read Warbreaker first, but it's just, oh god damn it, I'm in love with the Elantris, you know, like too deeply. I love the characters and I love the story, and Raelyn is my child, so if you know, and their Warbreaker has a beautiful magic system, so colorful, so amazing, and this whole thing about the breads, but the magic system for the Final Empire, for the Mistborn saga actually, dude. One thing that I have to tell you, first of all, is that I'm a chemist. I study chemistry, actually. And I'm freaking obsessed with metals. I've been obsessed with metals my entire life. I love them. I think that they're just amazing. So the fact that this magic system relies on metals, it was just like, the moment I realized that it was just like, I don't know, things like steel pushing in iron, and there was gold and, thin and pewter. And I was just like, oh god, I'm gonna love this so much. And it was so freaking cool because actually I freaking love metals. If you know me, actually my favorite X-Men is Magneto. Explicitly because of that fact. So metals, I'm in love with it. And the magic system is like so well constructed, I love the fact that, of course, because it's Brandon, he uses hard magic systems, and that means that he's got a lot of limitations to them, and that makes it really, really great, because it feels like, he just takes the magic systems and he says like, yeah, you're really powerful with them. You're capable of doing this and this and that, but you also have to take into account that you are still human, even though that you're this powerful, and that the magic you use it has consequences, and I love that the magic has consequences, and I love that it's really big consequences, like you could get really hurt by your own hand if you're not careful with it. So I think that the magic system, god damn it, it's just amazing. I'm in love with it. I'm in love with it. There's both magic systems in this, because you've got both allomancy and ferrochemy, and they're friggin' amazing. I'm just in love with it. I don't know what else to tell you about that. Magic system, just beautiful, beautiful. Now we need to talk about the world building, because seriously, the Final Empire is like a crazy place, and it's this place that just has been ruled for the bad guy for the past 1,000 years, and it is seriously, it is such a contrast. There are a few things that, because I know that I'm reading fantasy, but I just can't help but think about it, because I was just thinking all the time, like, for example, the sun has red light, and that is a different wavelength, and scientifically, like, things should be a little different for people. So I was just thinking, like, throughout it, like, because the sun is red and it has red light, which is a very different wavelength than the one we use, for the sun being yellow and all of that. And I was just thinking, like, has people's bodies adapted to this, and that's why they can see things the way they do, because colors only exist because of the wavelengths that light has, and the way that these structures and the photons basically turn the light, like, color doesn't exist. Color is just the property of having color, not really, of taking a photon. So I was just thinking about that, like, the sun, the fact that the sun is fucking red had consequences into something, and it's not just the fact that, I don't know, plants are green, but it should have made something different, for example, for the people, like the way in which they see things. I was just wondering a lot about that. But still, is incredible, this world in which the ash falls from the sky, and in the night you get mists, and it's really crazy, and is this really dark ambience. And I love dark ambiences, honestly. I'm gonna put the book down because I feel like really stupid holding the book like this. I love dark ambience, I love dark stories, because I write really dark yet colorful stories. So, when I'm reading Brandon Sanderson, I just feel like there is a madman who matches my own madness when it comes to writing. So I cannot really get that angry at him, because I know that I do the same kind of bullshit he does. But I'm still angry. But we're gonna talk about that later. So anyway, he writes very colorfully, and yet, there's a lot of darkness to it, and the Final Empire having this sort of darkness just makes sense, because this is a brutal story, because the bad guy won. I hear a whole bunch of people say that, like, this is a world in which the bad guy won, and it is crazy, because you just start reading the book, and like the first pages, and every page has this at the beginning, and you read these and you go like, but that's the Lord Ruler, like, I had suspicions, like, right from the beginning, that was from the Lord Ruler's book journal, a logbook, but way before we even knew that, like, I knew that had to be his story, and I was just like, but that's such a good man, and we're talking about a tyrant, we're talking about a person who literally made of everybody else a slave, and who's controlling the world in a way in which is really damaging. And like, how can this be the same person? Because you think about that, like, how can this person from the logbook, who's like really human, be the kind of person that's literally ruling out there? And then everything comes to be, and it makes sense, because it's not the same person, but still, so everything that's built from the final empire. And I'm talking about the Lord Ruler because he is the reason why the final empire exists, and why everything is the way it is. Because he's got a big connection with it, especially for the fact that he supposedly fought the deepness. I have these theory because I haven't read The Well of Ascension and The Hero of Ages yet. I have this theory that maybe he didn't really fight the deepness, but he became it somehow. And I don't know, that makes sense to me, but maybe I'm wrong. I want to find out. I don't know when I'm going. No, guesses. I don't know when I'm going. My dogs are around me and like they're making noise and dude. Um I don't know when I'm going to find out because I'm really pissed off by this book and I'm gonna tell you why, of course. But I don't think I'm gonna read the second one like right away because I'm fucking pissed off and I don't like how the second one starts out because it starts out with a character that I don't like, that I'm gonna talk about, of course. But thing is that that's my theory for the Lord Ruler, because I feel like there's something about it. But anyways, the world building, everything, how it works, the economy, the nobles, and the definition of the sky, being the yeah, pretty much the slaves, like the most lower class of all, and the terroristmen being there, also there, this thing with the inquisitors, like that was wow. These people like are scary, like it's really crazy. So everything from the economy, the politics, and everything is so well constructed. And I'm usually a person who doesn't really care about the politics, because I don't really care. But I read, yeah, I love Game of Thrones. I should care about politics somehow, but sometimes they bore me a lot, but this was like well done. My favorite part of the books were not the balls, like especially because Kelsier wasn't in them, and I care about Kelsier. We're gonna talk about that. So, anyways, world building. That was super crazy, and I really want to get on with it, because this book feels like this sort of story that actually just like everything that needed to happen happened. Like, so of course, but there's so much about the world building that we haven't seen yet. So I'm really intrigued, because there has to be a reason why things are the way they are, like why the sun is red, why plants are not green and instead they are brown, and all of these things. And it has to do with, of course, scientifically has to do with the light, because it has to do with the light. There's no other fucking way, but there has to be something else, probably on the soil or something else, because it has to. Because, for example, the problem in Elantris had to do with the soil, so makes sense. So I'm gonna stop talking about that. The thing that world building and magic systems, they're just, oh god, they're so perfect, and I love them. And it's really like really immersive, because you feel like you're there, like, and he explains it in a way in which like you feel like, okay, I get it, like it is really cool. And I don't know, Brandon's just narrative, I really like it. I mean, like, I think that he probably got even better throughout the years, because this book is like really old compared to like the newest ones. But it's still, his narrative just made it great, because we're being introduced to this whole new world and this whole new concept of magic, and yet it feels really natural to be reading it. So I love that. That's everything I have to say. Now we're gonna talk about, I think that we should talk about Bean, Kelsier, and the plot, but I think that I'm gonna do it separately. I want to talk about Kelsier last because this is a topic that hurts me. Like, I'm not gonna talk about Kelsier yet. Hold on. Let's talk about Bean. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about Bean. So Bean is a 16-year-old when she starts in here. She turns 17 throughout it, and honestly, she's such an interesting character, you know, and like from the start, especially because I've heard Brandon talking about her, you know that this is somehow is it's been story. So it makes sense everything that happens around her. So she's a character that is so interesting to me. I do not hate her. I do love her. Like she's a character that I came to love like probably in here, like it took me this to love her, probably, probably, yeah. um because I was like right away saying, oh, she's my daughter, that's it, she's my daughter, I don't need to tell you anything else about her except for the fact that she's my daughter, you know. And she's like, when it comes to my children, you know, Raiden is like up in the first place and then Bean comes second. I'm sorry, Bean, you're really awesome, but Raiden is still in first place. He's my favorite child. He's gonna continue to be. So she's a thieving crew, you know, and she has had a hard life, and she was so interesting from the get-go, you know, because she uses this thing that she calls log, in which she can like pretty much manipulate people's emotions, which we then come to know that it's soothing and rioting. She usually soothes people, so that's really cool. That's really really cool. You know, she calls it log. It's not log. It's allomancy, but she doesn't know anything about it. So it turns out to be that she can do more than one thing. You know, usually people are called mistings because they have like one power. For example, they are a pewter arm, or they are Tinai, or they are a sute, you know, and she can do all of them. So because she can do all of them, she's a Mistborn. And I was like, that's freaking crazy and that's freaking amazing, you know. And I, because of the fucking cover of the book, I kept forgetting that the book was called The Final Empire and not Mistborn. And then I was like, oh yes, it makes sense. But the saga is called Mistborn actually. So yeah, we're gonna meet. I think that we're gonna meet a lot of Mistborns, you know, throughout the series. So that's really cool. I see. I know that I say series, but I know that they are two different trilogies because they're told in different timelines. So I know. Don't worry. I know. Um, the thing is that she is, you know, she's a really relatable person in the sense like she doesn't trust anybody, and like I get you, girl, because I don't trust people. If you have trust issues, like especially because of the world in which she was like raised, it makes sense that she doesn't trust people. So she grows into that, you know, and she gets when she when Kelsier finds out she's a Mistborn, he just grabs her, you know, and he just takes her in pretty much and tells Elle, okay, you're gonna be part of our thieving crew, and I'm gonna train you in this. And you know, she starts to open up. You know, she has a very slow development, which actually makes sense, because if you come from all the trauma she went through her life and you want her to like get closure and heal in like 2 chapters, that's not gonna happen. Because she's spent 16 years of her life just thinking about protecting herself and not trusting anybody, because she knew that everybody would eventually betray her or leave her or just fucking do something horrible to her in any sort of way. So it fucking makes sense that she doesn't trust anybody. Like I wouldn't trust anyone in that kind of world, you know, because the underworld is really scary and you're fighting to live. So her instincts just make fucking sense, you know. And there's so many things that changed around her throughout the story, but this distrust that she has for people is like this thing that she keeps on having, you know, throughout the story. Even though she changes in a whole bunch of other ways, you know, she becomes like more talkative, you know, she becomes more confident in herself. She starts enjoying different things, you know. For example, one thing that I probably didn't like about her development is the fact that when she started to act like a noble woman, even though that she saw it as a disguise, you know, I feel like in some moments she was just like so caught up by all of the beauty of that she that she came to forget about everything else. But then it makes sense that that happens to her, because she's a child, and of course she's gonna get like blown away by the pretty things, especially when she has had such a horrible life, you know. And then she falls in love with a fucking lame ass guy. I don't like Ellen Ventura. I'm sorry if you like him. He's an asshat. He's a twat, and he doesn't serve for anything. I don't know if in the next books he's gonna present any sort of development that I actually care about, but I don't care about his character. I'm super pissed off about him. I don't care because I know people like him, like in real life, and they get on my nerves. They just get on my nerves. Um, doesn't matter. The thing is that I know that Bean has this sort of naivety, when it comes to like this the noble life and the whole of it. So it makes sense her entire development, and her growth throughout it. I just love the fact that we come to see her, like she is not completely healed at the end of the book, because he still has these abandonment issues, and she thinks that everybody's going to leave, and that's something that really hurts her, especially because throughout the story she came to trust people, you know so it fucking hurts because now she's like a little trustful of them, and it's just like they're still want that to leave and to betray her. There are a couple of things that happen in there that were not a betrayal, but she felt them like a betrayal, and I was just like, they did not betray you. Like that's not how you betray people. Like, no. But if you wanna, but I bet I know what you think that. There is this great moment about Bean that just I don't know. I have this thing that I usually I read out loud, like dialogue, and I act it out because this is my way of writing, so it's my way of reading as well. And there is just this great thing, like she finally snaps at Kelsier and at everybody else, and she just calls them out in the fact like, you are nobleman, you are not Ska. You don't know what it's like to fear for your life. You don't know what it's like to be in an environment and like people are going to, like, you don't know if the people around you are going to rape you. You don't know what it's like to go through hunger and through fear and through all of these things, and like that moment of her snapping, I just felt it so deep, because then you get to realize like she's had this development in which like, yeah, she got a little lost because of all these shiny things, but she has a whole bunch of things to heal from, because my child has been damaged, and she's been in a world that has been nothing but cruel to her, and the fact that other people are trying to tell her like, you should not care about noblemen, and all of these things, like when they themselves don't know anymore what that kind of suffering is like, because they've been through it, but they still act like noblemen, because they dress pretty and they eat every fucking day and they have a good life compared to other people that's having a really bad time, and it makes sense that she snaps that way, and it makes sense because she lived through it like very recently. And I just don't know, my girl is damaged. She needs a therapist. Please, somebody help my fucking daughter, because she's in pain, and I'm really looking forward to see the rest of Bean's development, because she's probably the only character that I'm gonna keep reading for, because of course they fucking screw me over. So the next thing I'm gonna talk about is plot. I know I have to talk about Kelsier, but I want to leave them for last because I don't want to cry like in the middle of the video. So we're gonna talk about plot, and the plot of these. I've always knew that Sanderson went about this sort of thing, like the plot of the Final Empire is a heist, and he just tried to, and he just grabbed this whole bunch of people that just had a role, to do, to have, You get a suitor, you get a puteran, you get them that they are mistborn, like then you get the smokers. You've got every person, that you need to. So you get them into this position, and it is actually genius. And let me tell you one thing, like the plot of the entire book, this is genius. Honestly, it's so well thought out, especially because the characters in it, like, even when things go wrong, like they find ways of making it work, and I feel like that is such a genius way of doing it, because they're just like, okay, like, we got it so screwed up, but we can still fix it, so we're gonna fix it, and we're gonna work with what we have, this whole thing of, I don't know, creating an army, recruiting an army, and then just making a mess of the economy, making a mess of noble houses, so they create a house war, and that they get the garrison out of the city, and that they get so much instability into the center of the final empire that they can actually go and topple it, and just break it down, and the whole plan of that, and how much planning it needs, because I'm so fucking used to the fact that, I don't know, stories in general just take a couple of weeks, to get through, but in this book you get through things like in a year. This fucking book takes a year to happen, and that's planning. That takes planning, and that takes like a lot of effort, because a year is a long time, and I fucking love about it, because they just went like, we've got this job, and we're gonna put this much effort and this much time into creating every single one of the things, because it is believable in that way, because you don't raise an army in a day, and you don't, I don't know, for example, Kelsier's plan of giving hope to the people. Like, you don't give hope to the people like with a simple speech, it is a series of events, and it's a series of things that just makes them believe in something, and that gives them enough courage and enough need to do something. It's just genius, and I fucking love the plot of it, because even though it is a heist, it is not a heist like it takes a couple of weeks, and like you see it happening, like you see everything. You see it when it goes wrong, you see it when it goes right, and when it goes wrong they take advantage of that anyway, and the people working in it's fucking amazing, and that's crazy, and I love it. The plot of this book is just so good, so good, and I love that, the plot like sort of like closes in this book, like they did what they wanted to do, even though it didn't go at exactly as planned, but yet it worked, and I fucking love that. So that's freaking great. The plot, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10, because it's genius. It was so well thought out, it was so well planned, and I cannot say anything except for the fact that like I was blown away, because of the intelligence of the characters, and of course the intelligence of Brandon, because he made it work, and he put a whole bunch of hindrances in the way for this to not work, and yet they got through them, and I fucking love that, because it's not like that they were minor things, like they were big things that should have fucking break them apart, and yet they still got to work through them, and I fucking love that, because I relate a lot to that, because even when things like get the hardest, like I'm like so fucking down, I'm still trying, because I'm stubborn like that, and I'm gonna keep on trying until I do things right. So I fucking love that, and it means a lot to me. So we're gonna talk about Kelsier now, and I think I'm gonna cry a lot. So I'm not ready. I'm not ready. Like a day and a half, it's not enough. It's it's not enough. Okay, so about Kelsier, this motherfucker, this son of a bitch, this fucking bastard, it hurts me. It hurts me. Like, from someone who has watched all 15 seasons of Supernatural and has loved Dean Winchester since day one, and from someone who has seen that character die like 100 times, and from someone who has seen that character sacrifice things, and has been hurt, and has, like, Supernatural is the only other story that ever hurt me this much. And I think this story hurt me even far more than Supernatural. And that's a lot to say because it's a fucking book. It's one fucking book. The other ones are like 300 episodes. And this was just one fucking book. And it hurt me far more than Supernatural ever did. Like, how is it possible, Brandon? I'm gonna be sending you my psychology bills. Like, dude. Like, seriously, Kelsier, I have never in my life fallen in love with a character. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, I can adopt characters and say, oh my god, this is my child, but I have never fallen in love with a character to the point of, like, saying, oh my god, this is my husband. Like, literally, to my best friend, I told him, Kelsier is my husband. Like, I don't care about anything. Like, he is my favorite character from this whole thing. Like, I love him that much to put him in this thing. Like, I'm fucking in love with you. I'm fucking in love with you. I don't only love you, I'm fucking in love with you. Because he's got this sense of being, And then at the moment I realized, like, I fucking love Kelsier because I am fucking Kelsier. Because he's, like, annoying and he's stubborn, And he's this bastard that's all the time having a smile on his face and being, like, a fucking problem to everybody. And I was like, I fucking love him because he's me. I know. Because he is. But he's got this sense of being, and this sense of seeing life, and this thing, like, he's just so set on a goal and he's not gonna stop until he gets there, and he's sort of like this positive force, this driving force throughout the whole thing. And this is the thing, like, he was the character that I was reading the book for. Because there were some parts that I wasn't really interested in, but then I started realizing every time Kelsier showed up, I was super excited that he was on scene because I wanted to hear what he wanted to say. I wanted to read what he had to say. I wanted to, like, to go through everything that happened around Kelsier because I was, like, so interested in that, and his way of seeing how the world moved, and how this thing. Morally, he's such an interesting character, and he's also me in that, because honestly, like, if I were to be in a fantasy story, I would have no problem killing people like he does, because, like, I understand you. Like, I have the same. There's a moment in which Marsh just tells them they're still people, like, they might be noble men, but they're still people, and, like, I said the same thing, and yet I understand Kelsier, and I understand Kelsier's sort of, like, hatred, because even though that they are still people, like, they are just a means to an end, like, you're doing this because they sort of deserve it, and, like, you don't care. So I understand him, because, like, morally, I have, like, so many of those things, especially when it comes to fantasy, like, my characters themselves, go through these things. Like, it hurts me to kill people, but yet I had to do it. Like, this is the way that had to be done, so, well, I'm gonna get through it. That's it. I fucking love him. Every single little thing, and there's actually a scene in it's for the end of part 3, if I'm not wrong. Where was it? For the end of part 3, yeah, after he loses dances in this, was this yeah, I found it. It is this thing, that it was, like, right after they lost 500 men of their army, and he just, and he's talking with Manis, and he says, that wasn't a victory, Manis, Kelsier whispered. I'll show you a victory. He forced himself to smile, not out of pleasure and not out of satisfaction. He smiled despite the grief he felt at the deaths of his men. He smiled because that was what he did. That was how he proved to the law ruler and to himself that he wasn't beaten. No, he wasn't going to walk away. He wasn't finished yet. No, by far. And in that fucking moment, I was just like, I love this man. Like, he's got my life. Because I'm the kind of person that will say that. And I was just like, yeah, like I could go through this great defeat and yet force myself to keep going because I'm gonna prove you wrong. And I was just like, I fucking love him. This is my favorite page in the fucking book. Like, it comes after a great moment of grief. And yet, that was my favorite page in the fucking book. So, yeah, that happened. The other page that I have marked is one that I want to talk about because it hurt me. And it's Kelsier's death. You know, but that's the thing. That's pretty much what I wanted to say. Like, I've never fallen in love with a character like I did with Kelsier. Like, I don't think I'm gonna get over him because I've never cried for a character that, you know, like in this way. Like, I'm telling you, Dean Winchester fucking died. Finally, like after 100 deaths, he fucking died. And in that death, you know, like of the amount of times that the Winchesters died in the story and that the amount of times that they hurt me, I don't think that anything left me this numb. Like, I finished reading the book, like, I'm gonna talk about, I finished reading that book and I couldn't understand shit. Like, I was like, so, it was like nothing cared, nothing mattered for me after that. So, Kelsier's death was, I was not okay. So the whole thing about that, you know, about him, you know, the whole story arc, we get to see them through, you know, because we know that he's going to die because this is suicidal. Like, everything he's doing is suicidal, and you know the stakes, you know, like, you know that he wants to face the Lord Ruler and he doesn't care if he dies doing so. We know everything that's happening in here. Like, it is foreshadowed enough. It is foreshadowed enough. I know it is. But there is this thing about Kelsier, like, you know, this is the kind of character that you follow into battle, you know, and that you follow any sort of his plans, you know. It doesn't matter if you don't agree entirely with him. It doesn't matter if you think he's completely insane. You're just gonna follow because you know he has something in mind and that he's gonna make it work. And that you want him to succeed. And the thing about him that I realized, you know, because I needed my time of thinking about it, he's not just the character that you want to go and follow into war and just see succeed. You want him to succeed and to live through it. You want him to survive it, so he gets to see what he was able to accomplish. And I'm not okay, because he doesn't get to see what he was able to accomplish, you know. I don't want to cry. Fucking God, I cried enough. I didn't cry at the moment, and that pisses me off, you know, because I was just so, like, in denial when it happened that I didn't even get to cry. Like, I couldn't put the book down because I kept thinking, like, no, he's not dead, you know, because, like, a part of me was like, okay, Marsh is not dead. Marsh is obviously not dead because he's, like, so much smarter than that, you know. He cannot be dead, you know. Even though Kelsier thought Marsh was dead, you know. And he destroyed the bits of Hazen because of that, you know. And everything that started happening because he thought that everybody was dead, you know. Everything that happened. And yet I was just thinking, like, no, Marsh cannot be dead. Like, that doesn't make sense, you know. So because I was having that thought, you know, like, when Kelsier's death happened, I was just like, no, he's gonna come back. Like, no, he probably faked it. He faked it somehow. Like, it has to happen. it has to be. And it didn't. And I was so fucking pissed off. Because I was like, because of this thing that I'm telling you, like, I want him to succeed. But dude, he had so much to see, and I'm not okay. Okay, so I'm gonna do my best to stop crying. So the thing about Kelsier's death is that it was so big, you know, and like throughout the whole story, everybody just kept telling him like, this is all about your ego, and you know, like everything about you being the survivor of Hudson, you know, the Lord of the Mist, and everything that people call you, like you are putting yourself out there, and you're just making yourself be seen because this is all about your ego, you know. And everybody kept thinking this is about your ego. This is just about you making yourself grand, you know, and being yourself, the best of the thieves out there, you know. Like this is for yourself only. And yet the whole story is just about him. For example, his story with Says, he's all the time like the one question he always asks, like around these many religions, that you know, what's the one thing that they all have in common, you know. And it's the fact that they are passionate about something, that they truly believe in it, because they give them something greater, you know. And I'm gonna read it because I want to hurt. I killed you once, the Lord Ruler said, turning back to Kelsier. You tried, Kelsier replied, his voice loud and firm, carrying across the square. But you can't kill me, Lord Tyrant. I represent that thing you've never been able to kill. No matter how hard you try, I am hope. And that is the last thing Kelsier says. And that it hurts, because he is actually hope, you know, because he's been building exactly that, you know. He's been visiting the people, he's been giving them hope exactly for that. And he knew all along that he was going to sacrifice himself so he could give the chance, so he could give the people the chance to actually rise up, you know, and to believe in a cause, you know, and to give them like maybe a different goal, you know, to believe them, to make them believe that there is something far stronger, you know, and far different than the Lord Ruler. Because the Lord Ruler has been doing this great thing of eliminating every other religion, so he's the only thing that everybody believe in, you know, because all other religions have been wiped out. And that's why the keepers, such as Says, have to exist, so that they can actually keep their religions, and for one day the final empire just is destroyed, and that people can actually get back to their lives before that, you know, to their beliefs and to their right to choose what they want to believe, you know. And he built himself to be hope, so people can actually get free of this tyrant, you know. And you know, and like Kelsier is fucking suicidal, like, you know, throughout the whole story he doesn't care about anything, you know, because he obviously cares about his life, but he cares into a limit in which, like, I'm gonna get into here, this is the moment in which I die, so I give you the way, I'm opening the way for you to continue. And yes, at the moment, like, I'm telling you, like, the moment I read that, it was just like, no, he cannot die like that. Like, he cannot be smacked down and then spirit riches and that's it. I know he's human, but that's not it, you know. And I went through like the same thought that Bean went through. Like, no, Miss were not supposed to be invisible, but that's for me, not for Kelsier. He's supposed to be, you know. And I was just like, no. no, he cannot be dead, you know. And I kept thinking about that, so I didn't feel anything about it, you know, because I kept thinking, like, you have to turn it around. Like, you cannot do this to me. This is not fair. This is not fair for my feelings. And then I finished the book and he was fucking dead, you know, like, for sure. It was just like, no. How fucking dare you? are gonna be okay. Okay, so now we need to talk about from Kelsier's death to the point in which this book actually finishes. Like, I was really numb reading that, so it's like I wanted to throw everything away, but I just had so little to continue on, you know. So I was just like, okay, I'm gonna keep on reading even though I'm falling asleep. And I didn't want to know anything else. Like, seriously, after Kelsier died, like, I was just like kept on reading only to find out he was actually dead. And then when he just didn't show up anymore, I was just like, I don't want to keep on reading, but I'm gonna keep on reading just because we need to. We need to finish this book. Like, I was so close. So after Kelsier dies, they found out that he actually had a weapon storage, you know, so to give to people so they could actually rise up, you know, that he had a plan regarding Akandra, who was going to take on his form after he died and appear to the people so that he could give them hope, you know, and he could appear like a vision to them and tell them what to do, you know. So the people, the Ska, rise up, and this is a moment that seriously, it is like so great, and it fills your chest with, like, I think about it now and it fills my chest with like a lot of emotion because he caused all of these, you know. But when I read it, I felt actually nothing because I was so numb. I was just like, I don't know what to feel. I don't know if I care enough. Because I was angry at the moment. So, you know, when you're angry and you don't want to feel anything but anger, and like you want people to let you with that feeling and just let you rot in it for a little while until you can actually let go of it, like that's what I was feeling. So the people rise up, you know, and everybody starts working so they can actually bring down the final empire, you know, everything's. Ellen Venture also gets on with it, you know, and he's just like, the Ska are rising against the empire, and I'm gonna take the lead, and I'm gonna say that we're gonna help them do it instead of standing against them. So he goes and talks to dogs, you know, and he's searching for Bean, who he actually knows as Ballet. But anyways, and the thing is that Bean goes to the palace to search for the Lord Ruler and to go and get him, because there's something about it, you know. And so Kelsier gives her, you know, the 11th metal, and he knows that that is the key to actually defeat the Lord Ruler. So a whole bunch of stuff happens, and we get to this point in which Bean actually realizes, especially because he read the logbook, you know, that you're not the man from the book. You're not the one who was supposed to be the hero of ages. You're Rashek, the one who used to hate this man that was supposed to be the hero that saved us all. You killed him and you took the power for yourself and you ruined the world for it, you know. And this is a great moment that I didn't care about, because I was, like I'm telling you, when I'm reading a book for a specific reason, I'm reading a book for that specific reason, and I don't really care about anything else. So, but this is actually genius, because, you know, throughout the entire story, you get this thing, like, you get everything that the Lord Ruler is doing, and it doesn't make sense, you know, according to everything that the logbook said, you know, because he was a man with doubts. He was a man who was actually good, who was thinking, like, can I be the savior that everybody's waiting for? Like, can I be what people actually need? And then we get to see that the world was fucking destroyed, and that it was made an entire mess for a man who was not supposed to get that power. And it makes sense, because yeah, it is like everybody says, this is a world in which the bad guy won. but it's not the guy that we've been learning about, you know, because we know nothing about this Rashek, except for the fact that he was fucking hateful towards the entirety of the logbook. He had nothing but hatred in himself. So that just basically showed throughout the rest of the story, throughout the kingdom that he created, throughout the world that he built up. This is a world that was built on his own hatred, you know. And when Bean finally kills him, he happens to be a man who doesn't only use allomancy, but he also uses feruchemy, you know. And this whole thing, like, some people say that allomancy, the first allomancers appeared when the mist appeared, and that was after the Well of Ascension. That was after, you know, the Lord Ruler rised up and he beat the deepness and this whole thing, you know. Like, can it be possible that allomancy didn't exist before this? So because he was a terrorist man, so he actually had feruchemy first, and then he got allomancy, and then he passed down allomancy to other people. So that's really interesting, you know. So finally Bean kills him, you know, and he's just like, you don't know what's going to happen once you do this. Like, you don't know what I do for this world, you know. And she actually remembers that after that, and she's just like thinking like there is something else. Like, we cannot be thinking that just because we killed the Lord Ruler we finally got rid of the whole thing, because he said that we don't understand what he's doing for the world, like what he does for the world, not what he did, you know. It's not like a one-time thing. And I think about this thing, especially, you know, for the theory that I talked to you about, that I think that he became the deepness somehow, that maybe he never defeated it because he wasn't the hero. Because in the last, what is in the last page, I don't know if it's in the last page or if I read it. See, it is in here before the pillow. If there are prophecies, if there is a hero of ages, then my mind whispers that there must be something directing my path. Something is watching, something cares. These peaceful whispers tell me a truth I wish very much to believe. If I fail, another shall come to finish my work. So that's the thing, that the one person who was actually supposed to succeed in this, he actually failed. And the hero of ages never came to be, because it was the wrong person, you know. And it was the person, like, especially because of this thing that we talked about, like, that it is talked about, like, pretty much in the beginning of the book. Like, people said that I'm gonna have the power to save the world, but I'm also gonna have the power to destroy it. So pretty much my arrogance can, you know, like, my self-importance and everything that's happening can ruin everything, you know. And then it comes Rajeg, who's actually a man who's like so overcome by hatred and by envy that he actually ruins the world, you know. So he's actually not the hero of ages. It doesn't matter that he fucking got over the deepness, whatever he did back then, he fucking screwed everything up because of that. So I feel like in the next books we're actually going to meet the hero of ages, and it's probably gonna be Bean, you know. Or maybe they're going to discover another person who actually saves the world and makes it what it has to be, you know, and truly fights the deepness like it has to happen. So that's really interesting, and that's pretty much why I'm going to be reading the second book, because my husband is dead. So what other reasons do I have to read the Well of Ascension, except for the fact that I have to continue being story, you know, because yeah. And talking about the next book, I actually read the first page of the second book, and it starts with fucking Ellen Venture. And like, I'm not gonna read that book until I'm not angry anymore about it, because I don't like Ellen. He's fucking lame to me. Like, seriously, I know people like him and I don't like them, because he's this kind of guy that he's put on a place of privilege, and that's what fucking bothers me about it, you know. He's put on a place of privilege, you know, and he has absolutely nothing to lose, because no matter what he does, he's gonna fall on his feet, you know. And then he's putting himself into all of these things that, like, it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna be rebellious, and I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want, and I'm gonna think like so many people did, like, even though that people got killed and all of that, and I'm just gonna rebel and be this little bastard and think that I, just because I'm not playing political games, I'm not actually in them, and like I have nothing to say, just because I'm not actively participating in politics, I have nothing to say about it, and like, you're a fucking privileged twat, and I fucking hate you for it. I fucking hate him, and I hope that he changes in the books, because I feel like he has charisma. So that's something good at least, but I don't like him. I don't like him. So the fact that he got to be king, I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy. It is the second book that I read from Sanderson that the fucking ending just pisses me off, because on Elantris, they gave me fucking Rathan being called a hero, who is, which he's not. He's not. You don't call Hitler a hero after everything he did just because he saved two people. No. And now you put Ellen fucking Benter as king? A privileged twat? Seriously? I hope he turns out to be a good king, because if not, I'm gonna riot. So, the final empire. I'm not gonna say that just because the ending made me really angry. I didn't love this book because even though I don't coincide with the ending, the same that happened to me with the Lantries, like, even though I don't like that ending and that I don't agree with Seth and things about it, I just still love the fucking journey, Like, this is the reason why I don't actually care about people giving me spoilers, because to me it's about the journey and not what actually happens in it, It's just like the combination of things and the things that take you through this pathway, So the whole of it, ever since like the beginning, every little piece that I led through the logbook, everything we read from the logbook, like the crew members, because they are simply amazing, honestly. Like, I don't know, just the relationship between all of them, it was just like so fucking fun to read them. And I was just reading them, and I was just like, you can see, that every single one of them just has this personality to them, and that they bring life into this whole thing, and I love it completely, And I loved Bean's interactions with them. I loved Kelsier's interactions with them. I love the whole thing. This sort of like formed family that you get in here. Like this great group of friends. That even though that they don't agree with each other, they still love each other and respect each other so damn much. There's this just great amount of things, so the journey is actually amazing, and it is a story that I enjoyed so much. I had so much fun reading it, and I was so glad I did. Like, I'm telling you, it was just like from Kelsier's death until the ending that I was a little numb and a little pissed off, but after that it was just like, it was great. So pretty much what I said to my friend, I'm gonna read the second book once I get over this. It's probably gonna be a decade before that happens because I don't let go easily. No, I'm probably gonna read it like in a month or so because I want to read a couple of other books, And I also like from the editorial house that I got this book. They don't have in stock the Well of Ascension and the Hero of Ages, and I don't really want to read them like on EPUB because like I want to have the physical book. I feel like it pays a little different to have it, especially because I read it when I will go to work, and it's it's better because I live in a fucking town, and I'm not gonna have my phone so that it gets stolen, and because people in my town is like really ignorant, they're probably gonna steal a phone instead of a book because they don't read. So it's better to have a fucking book. So the thing is that there's that. So I'm probably gonna wait until they have the books back in stock so I can actually buy them and have them and cherish them, and just if I have to throw something against the wall because Ellen Venture fucking pisses me off, then at least it's gonna be a book and not a phone. That's also there. So I'm gonna take a while, you know, because this book damaged me emotionally. It has been a lot. It is a journey that I loved. Seriously, I love this fucking book. I love the magic system. I love the world building, and Kelsier is my love. So I'm gonna act like a person who's actually grieving her husband, and I'm gonna take time. I'm gonna take my fucking time. So anyway, that was it. Please tell me in the comments what you think about this book and everything that it makes you feel. And that's it. I'll see you next time. Happy New Year. I hope this one is a good one for you and for your people. And I don't know, I'll see you next time I do a book review or a series review or in my next video. Always remember to be positive, kind, and curious. That's me leaving.